onto a stage without a script, without a costume, and everyone is watching. I want to share a story with you about a woman named Julianne. I met Julianne a few years ago at a retreat. She was 54 years old, a landscape architect in Seattle. For 25 years, she designed the most beautiful gardens for wealthy clients. She knew exactly where to place a Japanese maple, how to create harmony with stones and water. Her career was her identity. It was who she was, Julianne the architect. But then the firm was bought out by a large conglomerate. They wanted to cut costs. They wanted digital renderings instead of hand-drawn plans, and Julianne was let go. She told me, sitting by the fire with tears in her eyes, that losing the job was hard, but what broke her was the silence that followed. She realized she had no hobbies. She had no close friends outside of work. She had been so busy building gardens for other people that she had let her own inner garden turn into a desert. She said, "I am 54. Who is going to hire me now? I am invisible. I have no purpose." Do you hear yourself in Julianne? Maybe your title wasn't architect. Maybe it was mother. Maybe it was wife. Maybe it was manager. We attach ourselves to these labels like life rafts. We think they keep us safe. We think they tell the world who we are, and when the storm comes and the raft is punctured, we feel like we are drowning. We panic because without the label, we don't know who is left inside. But here's the truth that hurts before it heals. That label was never you. It was just a coat you were wearing. And now that the coat is gone, you are feeling the cold, but you are also free to move. For the first time in decades, the society we live in, especially here in America, it tells us that women have an expiration date. It tells us that if we haven't made it by 40, we should just fade into the background. They sell us anti-aging creams to hide the evidence of our survival. They celebrate the under 30 lists, but they ignore the wisdom of the over 50 reality. This cultural narrative is poison, and you have been drinking it for so long, you don't even realize it is making you sick. I need you to understand something fundamental, this pain you are in, this midlife crisis as they call it. It is not a crisis. It is an unraveling, and unraveling is necessary. You cannot knit a new sweater until you unravel the old one that doesn't fit anymore, the one that is too tight, the one that scratches your skin. You have to pull the thread and watch it come undone. And yes, it looks like a mess on the floor right now. It looks like a pile of tangled yarn, but that yarn is the raw material of your future. Let's look at another example. Let's talk about Rebecca. Rebecca was a VP of sales in Chicago, sharp-driven, always in a suit. She defined herself by her paycheck and her power. At 51, her husband of 20 years told her he was unhappy. He said she was married to her phone, not to him. He asked for a divorce. Rebecca fought it. She begged. She promised to change, but he left anyway. For 6 months, Rebecca fell apart. She couldn't focus at work. Her numbers dropped. She started drinking wine alone at night just to numb the silence in her luxury apartment. She told me, "I did everything right. I followed all the rules. I was the good student, the good earner. Why is this happening to me?" That question, why is this happening to me? It is the cry of the victim, and I say this with so much love because I have screamed that question at the sky myself. But as long as you stay in, why is this happening to me? You are powerless. You are a leaf blowing in the wind. The shift happens. The healing begins when you change the question to what is this trying to teach me? For Rebecca, the lesson was brutal but beautiful. She realized that she had been using her career and her marriage to run away from herself. She had never actually liked herself. She needed the external validation. The good job, Rebecca. the I love you, Rebecca, to feel worthy of existing. When those voices went silent, she was forced to hear her own voice, and at first, it was just a whimper. Healing emotional wounds after 50 requires a different kind of bravery. It is not the bravery of charging into battle. It is the bravery of sitting still. It is the courage to look at the wreckage and not look away. It requires you to grieve. We are so bad at grieving in this culture. We want to skip to the moving on part. We want the 5 steps to happiness, but you cannot skip the grief. You have to mourn the woman you used to be. You have to mourn the future you thought you would have. You have to cry for the dreams that didn't come true. I want you to imagine your grief as a house guest, a very inconvenient, messy house guest. You don't want them there. They leave wet towels on the floor. They eat all your food. But if you lock them in the basement, they will just bang on the floorboards. They will make the whole house shake. You have to invite the grief up to the living room. Sit with it. Have tea with it. Ask it what it wants. Usually, it just wants to be acknowledged. It wants you to say, this hurts, and I am sad, and that is okay. But here is where most people get stuck. They invite the grief in, and then they let the grief take over the mortgage. They let the grief become the owner of the house. They start to identify with their pain. I am the divorced woman. I am the failed entrepreneur. I am the lonely widow. No, you are not your pain. You are the one observing the pain. There is a massive difference. When Julianne, the landscape architect, finally stopped sending out frantic resumes and started tending to her own internal garden, she noticed something. She noticed that she didn't actually miss the corporate meetings. She didn't miss the demanding clients who wanted status symbols. She missed the dirt. She missed the smell of soil. She missed the feeling of creation. She realized she didn't want to be an architect anymore. She wanted to be a gardener, but her ego fought her. Gardener? That is a step down. You have a master's degree. What will people think? Have you heard that voice? The voice of the ego, trying to protect your status, even when your status is making you miserable. That voice is the guardian of the status quo, and the status quo is dead. We have to bury it. Starting over is not about rebuilding the same life. It is about reimagining a new one. It is about asking, what do I actually want? Not what my parents wanted from me, not what my husband wanted, not what society expects of a 50-year-old woman, but what makes my heart beat faster. Maybe it is painting. Maybe it is writing. Maybe it is moving to a small cottage by the sea. Maybe it is starting a business, baking cookies, whatever it is valid, but to get there, to get to that place of clarity, you have to clear the fog of trauma. You have to detox your emotional system. And this brings us to the core of the problem. The reason why so many of us fail to start over successfully is because we try to change our circumstances before we change our narrative. We move to a new city, but we pack the same old insecurities in our suitcase. We date a new man, but we bring the same fears of abandonment into the dinner date. We start a new job, but we carry the same imposter syndrome into the boardroom. There is a specific mechanism, a psychological trap that keeps women over 50 stuck in the past. It is called the sunk cost fallacy of identity. We think because we invested 20 years in something, we cannot walk away from it. We think it defines our worth, and letting go feels like admitting waste. But your life was not a waste. It was a lesson. It was preparation. Everything you have been through, the heartache, the betrayal, the long nights of worry, it has built a resilience in you that a 20-year-old cannot possibly understand. You have steel in your spine now. You have fire in your belly. You just need to know how to direct it. You need a roadmap for this new terrain because the old maps don't work here. The map that said, go to school, get married, retire, That map is burning. We need a new compass. I have discovered that there are three distinct phases of the midlife reset. Most people try to jump straight to phase three, which is action. They join a gym, they sign up for a dating app, they update their LinkedIn, and then they burn out in 2 weeks because they skipped phase one and phase two. They built a house on quicksand. Phase one is what we are doing right now. It is the awakening. It is the admission that the old way is over, but phase two is the most critical and the most dangerous. It is the void, the space between who you were and who you are becoming. It is dark in the void. It is scary, but it is also where the magic happens. If you know how to navigate it, if you rush through the void, you will just recreate your old life with new scenery. You will find a new husband who treats you exactly like the old one. You will find a new boss who exploits you just like the last one because you haven't changed your frequency. You haven't reset your internal thermostat. So how do we navigate the void? How do we heal the deep emotional wounds so that when we do step into action, we are moving from a place of power, not a place of desperation? How do we stop bleeding on people who didn't cut us? There is a powerful technique, one that I used when my own life fell apart at 48, one that I taught Julianne and Rebecca. It completely shifted their trajectory. It is not about adding more to your to-do list. It is about a radical subtraction, a stripping away of the lies we tell ourselves. I'm going to share this technique with you. It is the secret to turning your midlife crisis into your midlife awakening. But I need you to be ready. I need you to be committed to doing the work, because hearing it is easy. Applying it requires guts. Before I hand you this key, before we unlock the door to phase two and the specific strategy, I want you to do one small thing for yourself right now. If you feel a stirring in your chest, if you feel like finally someone is speaking your language, click that like button. It is a signal to yourself that you are listening. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell, because the next part of this manual is the practical step-by-step guide out of the darkness, and you do not want to miss the light. We call this technique the identity audit, and it is terrifying because it requires you to kill the version of yourself that you spent decades perfecting, the version that pleased your parents, the version that kept the peace in your marriage, the version that smiled when she wanted to scream. It requires you to take a red pen to the story of your life and edit it without mercy. Most women I work with think they need to add things to their life to feel better. They think I need a hobby, I need a vacation, I need a makeover. But you don't need addition right now. You need subtraction. You cannot fill a cup that is already full of stale tea. You have to pour it out, every last drop. Here is how the identity audit works. And this is exactly what Julianne did, sitting on the floor of her empty living room, surrounded by the silence that used to scare her. She took a piece of paper and she wrote down every I am statement she could think of. I am an architect. I am a wife. I am a provider. I am the responsible one. I am the one who fixes everything. I am the one who doesn't need help. She looked at that list and she realized something that made her stomach turn. 90% of those statements were obligations. They were not truths. They were roles she had been cast in by a society that needed her to be useful, not happy. So she took a pair of scissors and she cut the paper into strips, one statement per strip, and she held them over a metal wastebasket and she burned them, one by one. I am an architect, burned. I am a wife, burned. I am the one who fixes everything, burned. She told me later, I felt like I was committing a crime. I felt like I was erasing myself, but when the last strip turned to ash, I didn't disappear. I was still there, but I was lighter. This is the void I told you about. the space where you are no longer who you were, but not yet who you will be. It is uncomfortable. We hate the void. We rush to fill it with noise, with busy work, with dating apps, because in the void, we have to face the one person we have been avoiding all our lives, ourselves. When you strip away the titles, when you strip away the relationship status, when you strip away the job description, what is left? That is the $1,000,000 question, and finding the answer is the work of the midlife reset. It is not about finding a new husband. It is about finding the woman who was buried under the husband's needs. It is not about finding a new career. It is about finding the creative spark that was suffocated by the corporate ladder. Let's go back to Rebecca, the VP who lost her marriage and her job. After she did the identity audit, she realized that her entire self-worth was tied to productivity. If she wasn't producing, she felt she didn't deserve to take up space. This is a common trap for our generation. We were the first generation of women told we could have it all, so we tried to do it all, and we burned ourselves out trying to prove we were worthy. Rebecca had to learn a new skill, a skill harder than closing a $1,000,000 deal. She had to learn how to do nothing. She had to learn how to sit in her garden and watch a bee land on a flower without feeling guilty that she wasn't checking emails, without feeling like she was wasting time. She had to rewire her brain to understand the soul that her value was in her being, not her doing. This is phase 3, the rebirth. But notice, we didn't jump here. We crawled through the mud to get here. Once you have purged the old identities, once you have made peace with the void, then, and only then can you start to plant new seeds. But you must plant them differently this time. In your first act, you planted seeds that others gave you. Here, plant a career seed. Here, plant a marriage seed. In your second act, you only plant what you truly want to grow. This is where the magic of micro experiments comes in. Don't commit to a new 10-year plan. We are done with 5-year plans. Life is too unpredictable for that. Instead, commit to curiosity. Julianne didn't immediately open a landscape business. No. She started small. She volunteered at a community garden on weekends. She got her hands dirty. She talked to the plants. She remembered what it felt like to play, and slowly, organically, without the pressure of success, she found her joy again. She realized she didn't want to design huge corporate parks. She wanted to teach people how to grow their own food. She started a small YouTube channel just for fun, and it grew. Not because she was trying to be famous, but because she was authentic, because she was speaking from her soul, not her ego. For you, the woman listening to this right now, your path will look different, but the principles are the same. You have to stop asking for permission. You have to stop waiting for someone to validate your existence. You have spent 50 years pleasing others. Isn't it time you pleased yourself? I want to give you a specific plan of action to take you from this video into your real life, because inspiration without action is just a dopamine hit. It fades. I want you to make a change. First, clear the physical space. If you are living in a shrine to your past life, you cannot build a new one. Those clothes in your closet from a job you hated, donate them. That chair your ex-husband used to sit in, sell it. Buy a new chair. Buy a bright yellow chair if that makes you smile. Your environment signals to your brain who you are. If your environment says, sad, divorced woman, your brain will believe it. Change the signal. Second, schedule the sacred pause. Every single day, for 20 minutes, you do nothing. No phone, no book, no meditation app, just you and your thoughts. It will be excruciating at first. Your brain will scream at you to do something. Let it scream and then watch the scream fade. In that silence, you will hear the whispers of your intuition, the whispers you have been drowning out for decades. They will tell you what to do next. Third date yourself. I mean this literally. Take yourself to the movies, take yourself to a fancy dinner, buy yourself the flowers you used to wait for a man to buy. When you treat yourself with romance and respect, you set a standard. You tell the universe, this is how I expect to be treated. And you will never again settle for less than that. From anyone else, I know you are tired. I know the road ahead looks long and steep. But look at how far you have climbed already. You have survived heartbreak. You have survived loss. You have survived the shattering of your world. And you are still here. You are still standing. That makes you dangerous, in the best possible way. It makes you powerful. The world tells us that women fade as they age, that we become invisible. I say, let them think that, because while they are not looking, we are reinventing the world. We are creating businesses with soul. We are creating relationships with depth. We are creating lives that are actually worth living. Not just looking good on paper. You are not starting over from scratch. You are starting over from experience. You are not an empty vessel. You are a vessel that has been broken open so that more light can get in. This is not the end of your story. This is the plot twist. This is the part where the main character finally realizes she was the hero all along. It wasn't the prince. It wasn't the boss. It wasn't the children. It was you. It has always been you. Go out there and claim your second act. Write it in bold ink. Make it messy. Make it loud. Make it yours. And remember, you are never alone in this. We are a tribe of women rising from the ashes, and we are just getting started. If this message resonated with your spirit, if you felt that spark of hope reignite, do not let it die out when the screen goes black. Share this video with a sister, a friend, a woman who needs to hear it. Hit that like button to claim your power and subscribe to the Midlife Reset Manual because we are building a movement here and I want you right beside me. Take a deep breath. Step forward. Your new life is waiting.